You ever think a $3,000 snowblower could change the course of your whole life? Because let me tell you, I never did. At least, not until the morning I found myself staring down the queen of the HOA in my own driveway, coffee steaming in one hand and frost biting at my ears, wondering how the hell I'd ended up as public enemy #1 over a hunk of metal with an auger. I'm Connor Mitchell, and for 8 years I called Pine Ridge Estates in Erie, Pennsylvania home. Nice enough place, if you like conformity, neat lawns, mailboxes all painted the same shade of approved beige, not a garden gnome out of place unless you wanted a violation notice wedged under your windshield wiper before breakfast. When I moved in, I figured the HOA was just one of those necessary evils. Annoying, sure, but if you kept your grass cut and your truck off the curb, they'd leave you alone. Turns out, I was only half right. Most years, the drama never got past a nasty email thread about Halloween decorations or somebody's kid mowing over the daffodils. But in December 2024, the snow came down like God was shaking out his featherbed, 18 inches overnight. Growing up in Erie, you learn pretty quick that snow isn't just weather, it's a way of life. That's why I'd sunk $3,000 into a commercial-grade Aryan snowblower. Big Blue could eat 2 feet of powder like it was cotton candy. Best money I ever spent. Or so I thought. See, I run Mitchell's Lawn and Garden Services. Mow in the summer, plow in the winter, pay the mortgage year-round. I've got a heavy-duty Ford F-350 with a plow on the front and a don't mess with me rumble. The morning after that storm, I was up before the birds, clearing my own drive so I could go make my rounds. The neighborhood was quiet, just the whine of the auger and the scrape of the blade. The kind of silence that makes you feel like the whole world is asleep except for you. And then, right on cue, here comes Patricia Danvers, HOA president, self-appointed guardian of neighborhood morals, wrapped head to toe in a parka that probably cost more than my snowblower. Blonde ponytail, steely eyes, the kind of person who could spot an unapproved mailbox color from 100 yards. She marches straight across the street. Doesn't even wait for a good morning. "Excuse me, Connor," she says, voice slicing through the cold. "We need to talk." She didn't bother with small talk. She got right to it. Told me she thought it was incredibly selfish that I kept that snowblower to myself when the whole neighborhood could benefit. "We're a community here," she said, "and that means sharing resources for the common good." She actually wanted to propose a bylaw at the next HOA meeting, mandating that anyone with specialized equipment had to make it available to anyone who asked. I stared at her. Honestly, I thought maybe the cold had gotten her brain. I tried to explain. This thing cost me $3,000. I use it for my business. I clear driveways for a living. If people needed help, they could hire me, same as anybody else. I even offered Mrs. Henderson, 3 doors down, a neighbor's discount, 20% off. But that wasn't good enough for Patricia. She said Mrs. Henderson shouldn't have to hire you. And before I knew it, she'd already told the poor woman I'd be clearing her driveway for free within the hour. "Just the neighborly thing to do," she said. I told Patricia I'd help when I could, but I had a day's worth of paying clients waiting, and I wasn't about to let her bully me into becoming the neighborhood's unpaid snowplow man. She didn't like that. She told me the board would be discussing official action. Marched off with her phone out, probably already typing the first of many emails. Sure enough, a few days later, a blast went out to the whole neighborhood. Community spirit and shared resources, suggesting anyone with specialized equipment should be required to help others. She didn't say my name, but everyone knew who she meant. Most folks thought she was nuts, but a few jumped on board, especially the ones who didn't own a snowblower or a lawnmower or, frankly, anything that might require effort. Then, the official notice came, signed by Patricia and the other 2 board members. They said I was violating Section 7.3 of the bylaws, community standards, and neighborly conduct. They claimed my refusal to clear Mrs. Henderson's driveway was detrimental to the community's spirit. I read it 3 times, each pass boiling my blood a little more. Section 7.3 was one of those vague, catch-all clauses HOAs love, designed to mean whatever the board wants it to mean on a given Tuesday. So I called my attorney, Robert Shun, a practical guy, not one for drama. He listened, then told me what I already knew. Connor, could you fight this? Sure. Will it be expensive, exhausting, and drawn out? Also, yes. HOAs have more power than you think, and fighting them is a war of attrition. Sometimes, even if you win, you lose. He said I had three choices: ignore them and hope it blows over, comply, and keep receipts for a future lawsuit, or move. Move? I'd built my whole business here, my clients, my suppliers, everything. But Patricia wasn't letting up. 4 days later, another snowstorm, and Patricia shows up with the two other board members, telling me they'd voted on an emergency measure. As of now, anyone with snow removal equipment was required to help the elderly or disabled before doing paid work. I told them they couldn't just invent rules on the fly. Susan, the treasurer, I think, chimed in, "Neighbors help each other." I told her, neighbors ask for help. They don't demand it. And Mrs. Henderson hasn't asked me for anything. Patricia told me I had until noon to clear the driveway or get fined $100 a day. At this point, I figured I'd better talk to Mrs. Henderson myself. She opened the door, surprised. I explained everything. She shook her head. Her nephew had already cleared her drive, and if she needed me, she'd have called. "That woman is using me as an excuse," she muttered, angry as I'd ever seen her. At least I knew where I stood. But the fines started rolling in, official notices, now totaling over $2,000. I forwarded them all to Robert, who said, "This is harassment, plain and simple. They can't invent emergency measures or levy fines for unpaid labor. But to fight it, you'll have to go through the HOA's process first, then maybe sue. If I didn't pay, they could put a lien on my property." "You're not trapped," he said, "but your options are ugly." That night, bone-tired after 12 hours of clearing snow, I sat down at my computer and started looking at properties outside the HOA. Most places in Erie are HOA-controlled, but I found a place 20 minutes out near Lake City. For bedrooms, 3 acres, no HOA, and a detached garage big enough for my gear. The price was right. The next day, I called the agent and set up a showing. Patricia, meanwhile, kicked the drama up a notch, blasted another email to the neighborhood, called me out by name for refusing to be a team player. Some neighbors started leaving notes on my truck. Others reported me for made-up zoning violations. The city inspector came, looked at my paperwork, shook his head, told me he gets these calls all the time from HOAs on a power trip. A few folks stuck their necks out for me. Mike Torres, the guy who started the SUV sharing joke, brought over a six-pack and said, "Half the neighborhood thinks Patricia's nuts. If you want to fight, we'll back you. But if you leave, I get it." I thanked him, but my mind was made up. The Lake City place was perfect, big, quiet, room to breathe. I put in an offer, and it was accepted overnight. I quietly listed my house, got 3 offers in as many days, all over asking price. The buyers were moving from Cleveland for work. I felt a little guilty not warning them about Patricia, but as my agent said, I wasn't required to disclose HOA drama. The fines from Patricia kept coming, now over $2,000. I ignored her. Closing day was a blizzard, over 20 inches in 18 hours. I loaded up my last things, cleared the drive one final time, and ignored Patricia's frantic calls and texts. "Emergency. Need you to clear the streets," she wrote. "Not my responsibility," I replied. "You're blocking emergency access," she threatened. I ignored her. Around noon, as I was finishing up a job, the police called. Officer Stevens was at my old house. Patricia had claimed I was running an illegal business, creating a hazard. He checked my paperwork, said it was all in order, and apologized for the hassle. "We get this a lot," he said. "You haven't done anything wrong." Patricia tried one last time, confronted me in the driveway as I loaded my last boxes. "You can't leave. You owe us fines," she shouted. "So me," I said. "I don't live here anymore." Her face went white. "What about snow removal?" "Not my problem." I drove off, Patricia shrinking in my rearview mirror, and I've never looked back. Life in Lake City was everything I hoped for, quiet, free, my own boss. My commute got a little longer, but I picked up new clients, hired help, grew the business. No more HOA, no more drama. But about a month later, Mike called, laughing so hard he could barely speak. Patricia got caught inventing rules. Turns out those emergency measures and fines weren't in the bylaws. She was pocketing the money herself. There's a criminal investigation now. I forwarded the news to Robert. He replied, "Sometimes the trash takes itself out." Patricia ended up with 2 years in prison for embezzlement. Had to pay everything back. Her husband left her, and the new HOA board rewrote the rules to make sure nobody could ever do that again. Some folks moved away, some moved in. Pine Ridge Estates went on, like any other suburb. But I was done with it. My business thrived. My neighbors in Lake City were the good kind. You wave, you help if you want. Nobody keeps a tally or calls the cops over a truck parked out front. Sometimes I wonder if Patricia had just asked nicely that first morning, told me Mrs. Henderson could use a hand, would I have helped? Sure. I'm not a monster. But that's not what people like her do. They demand, they threaten, they push. In the end, they lose everything and wonder why. The lesson hit me late, but hit hard. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to fight, but to leave. They can't control what's not under their thumb. Now, every time I fire up my Snowblower, every time I park my plow truck in my own driveway, I remember the battle that set me free. If you're stuck fighting an HOA hell-bent on power, document everything. Know your rights. Get a lawyer if you need one. But don't be afraid to walk away. Freedom's worth more than any house or view. I left Pine Ridge Estates behind, and with it, all the nonsense. Never looked back, never regretted it. Not for a second. So here's my question for you. When is enough enough? Where's the line between community and control, between helping out and being taken for a ride? Drop your own stories or thoughts down below. Maybe you're living your own HOA nightmare right now. Or maybe you beat them at their own game. Either way, let's hear it, because sometimes the only way to keep your peace is to take it back for yourself.